This is a new combination of 4.
Tuesday, January the 24th, right at 5:35 p.m. Vice Mayor Lawson is present, Councilwoman Roman and Councilwoman Garner. The motion for approval of the minutes of January the 10th, 2006.
I'll move it.
Moved by the Vice Mayor, second by Councilwoman Wallman. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 2B is a discussion and action on design for the new City Hall site. Is it you, Mr. Vice Mayor, or the manager?
I think, unless Mike, if you want to jump in. This is placed on the agenda not to talk about a specific design, but to get some council direction as to whether or not we're ready to go to the next stage to actually begin the design process. And it's at this point, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, that we need to give some direction as to whether or not we wish to continue with the firm of architects that we've utilized from day one, or whether we want to put it out for RFP to invite others to take part. Mike, I know the manager's office has a recommendation, I believe.
Mr. Mayor, council members, if you recall back when we authorized the scope services for the programming phase, there was some discussion among council members on how to proceed, and we promised that after the program is completed, we'll come back for a workshop with council on how to proceed and get direction from you. And like the Vice Mayor said, we're bringing it to you to practically give us a direction. I think if you ask the city manager's office, of course you could always have the option continue with the architect we have, or go for an RFQ separate. When we had the continuing services RFQ, City Hall was listed as a part of the projects we potentially could bid, and we confirmed with our attorney, David Wubin, and he said if you listed, then you are clear, you could allow them to do the work, and we did. Actually, one of the other projects we listed was the substations project and transmission lines. I know there was some discussion last time, and if you ask us, we think we're really comfortable with this architect, and for the sake of time, and I think they proved that they did a good job. We recommend that you allow us to proceed with them.
Mayor, that would be my thought. I think that within the scope of the approval that was previously given, we have the flexibility to continue forward. I think there would be a result as well in a huge time delay. Clearly, a new firm of architects, I believe, would want to come in and reinvent the wheel of sorts, and I'm comfortable proceeding. Again, this is just to continue the process to begin the design, not to adopt a design.
Any other comments? Mr. Vice Mayor, you see any problems if we don't have a variety of designs from different architects to choose from?
Well, what we anticipate here, based on some conversations with the current firm of architects, is they would bring in for our consideration many different photographs depicting their work and the work of other architects.
Okay.
To demonstrating many different styles.
Okay.
And then it would be, I think my perspective is how I view what would happen. The council would go through a process of elimination, and then we would take public input on the whittling down on the, let's say, the 4 to 6 different styles that we whittle it down to, take some public input and get some more council input on which element of style we want the exterior of the building to look like. So I don't think we have that risk of limited style for an architectural firm. I think they're very good at responding to clients. I think they have a pretty good respect and appreciation for our history here and our desire that we build a building that's going to stand the test of time, both in its functionality but its appearance as well.
Any other comments? Do you need a vote on this, Mike?
Yes, Mayor, we need your vote to proceed. And of course,
we would Vice Mayor move. Is that second? Second by Ms. Wallman. There's no additional questions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 3 is the Education Committee. Councilwoman Bell.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to bring an item up that has been in discussion for some time, and as I do, I want to welcome all the members of the Education Committee that I see sitting out there, and thank you for your attendance as well as members of school board staff. Thank you. We have been working on, and city staff and I have been working on acquiring a 3-acre land site for the purpose of a future high school site. And in discussion, I decided that before we go any farther with discussions, I wanted to bring it to council, because if council is for it, great. We will proceed with the purchase and the acquisition of the 3-acre site. If council says no, then I'm going to, we don't need to expend any more resources, especially with the attorneys. I must have a lot of power in my voice there. I don't want to continue until we get the go-ahead basically from council. Let me go ahead and share a little bit about my vision in exactly what I'm talking about here. Behind Harris Field is a 17-acre site that's going to be a future shopping center site, out parcels, very nice restaurants, etc. I was speaking, in fact, on behalf of the mayor, at a panel of mayors on growth and development, and we were talking about different cities, and the city of Homestead was one of the highlighted cities. And a young man approached me and said that he was the owner of the property of the 17 acres. It was actually he and his father. And so I grabbed him and said, step into my office right there, and we kind of moved over, and on a handshake, I asked him to talk to me before he sells or commits anything, and he did, and we've had 3 subsequent meetings with he, his father, and their attorney, and they have agreed to sell us 3 acres for pennies on the dollar, if you will. Instead of the city always getting overcharged, this is an undercharge basically. But on a handshake, they agreed to set aside 3 acres for us. It would abut the Harris Field site. We have 2 football fields. We have a multiplicity of baseball fields and softball fields. We also have a lot of parking, a side road, and a YMCA with a swimming pool and a gym. The pool and the gym and the basketball courts, the fields and everything is underutilized during the day, and of course utilized on the nights and the weekends. So we thought it would be very easy to enter into a joint use, to an agreement with the YMCA, and of course the Harris Field site is ours, and we would make very, very good use. I've been in contact with Anna Reggio Condi, as well as other school board staff members. And quite frankly, just today I spoke with Anna Condi again, and she was very excited. And her first question was, if we get the acquisition, does it have to be a charter school? I said, absolutely not. It doesn't have to be a charter school, it doesn't have to be anything. And I said, but I want it done our way, and I want the city to maintain the ownership of the land. So she said that she thought that would be fine, that would not be a problem. I shared the idea with her. She got very, very excited, and she said with the new forward-thinking school board and Rudy Cruz, she thought that was very, very doable. And she even said that, and I said, I don't want a big school. I want a smaller school, about 3 stories high, a fairly small footprint, with approximately 500 to 800 students. She said she thought that could be funded immediately. So I was almost in shock when she said that. And she said, unofficially, she has to go back and get approval. But she said, because we need it so badly down here, and if the land was acquired and we hold the land, and the school board could possibly lease the land, or whatever. That's all to be worked out in the future. But before I go any farther, I wanted to go ahead and get an affirmation from this council, yeah, go forward. So that's exactly why I'm presenting this here tonight. And at this point, I'd like to open the floor for questions. Anybody, any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Ms. Bell, I'll say it, before you were part of this council, Charles and Brad, I think, individually with several of us, floated the concept, and
we just have a little bit of different flair on it now.
And my concern with that site and I don't want to diminish for a moment the urgency of the need of a new high school in Homestead. But some of my concerns with that site have been turning US 1 into a school zone, as well as effectively turning most of Campbell Drive from US 1 all the way out to the Turnpike into one continuous school zone. I mean, hey, that part of Campbell Drive from US 1 all the way out to Speedway Boulevard is going to be our new Homestead Main Street. Have we looked even preliminarily at any of the traffic flow issues? And I think I've heard some perhaps conjecture that maybe that there would be no entrance off of US 1. Right. That it would come from the back road, the little behind.
I can't think of the name of the street.
Behind Harris Field, the one that's like back around Kia, back.
What is it?
Is that Tennessee? Yes.
Yeah, Tennessee. Thank you.
Before we get too far afield, have we looked at any of the traffic flows or perhaps the establishment of new roadways? Because, wherever the high school goes, traffic's going to be the issue. So are we going to put kids through neighborhoods or are we going to bring them through commercial zones?
Well, it was discussed, but I will say loosely. And nothing's been, exactly put down in cement, but it has been loosely discussed. And we thought that we could take the flow off of US 1, that would not be a problem. And we would kind of create ingress and egress, if you will, on Tennessee. So, but there would be some traffic on Campbell Drive. That would be absolutely unavoidable. But I would maintain that these are kids that are going to be on the road going to school anyway.
Somewhere.
Right. These are kids that are going to be going to school somewhere anyway. And I know we are widening Campbell Drive, but I wanted to point out the strategic positioning of this particular school. It's exactly in the center, if you will, between Homestead and South Dade. It is the perfect spot. We basically have the East School, and we have the North. Actually, that would be Northern, and we would have this school that's right in the center, right within the city limits in the center. And one of my concerns, and thank you, I think that's a very, very valid discussion, and it's been loosely discussed, Steve. It's not been, discussed in work. Now, that's something we could look into, but it's going to be unavoidable to have traffic on Campbell Drive, but there does not have to be a huge amount of traffic on and off of US 1. So I think we can work on that, and we can look at it. I didn't want to proceed farther in expending our resources, our funds, if you will, until I got confirmation from council.
Well, and another question, and clearly, your concept of the cross use is a perfect example of the model that's been very successful in Pembroke Pines in their charter school system, where they cross-use parks and recreation and the city amenities, and it's a very economical and very successful project. But I think implicit in this is that either we become the council that ended the Homestead Rodeo after 50-some years, or is there discussion, if we're going to utilize that additional properties on Harris Field, are we going to need to take that, and have we looked at the continued viability of the Rodeo Association if we're going to offer them a new site?
At this point, I think we just work with our 3 acres, leave the rodeo alone, leave the rodeo site alone, let them, work out their issues, and just let them continue with the rodeo. Let us work on the 3 acres.
Cross-use with the Y and our existing ball fields at Harris Field, not cannibalizing any of the rodeo site or the pavilion.
Not at this time. I didn't have it as plans. And Charles LaPrade and I sat down and discussed this, and he actually met with me and the Fragas. But I thought it was so providential that I happened to meet the Fragas downtown Miami when I was speaking. And so very providential, and that they were willing to offer us the land at such a very, very reasonable price. And Charles and I, when we were discussing this, I did modify it quite a bit with the use, moving in the existing use of the pool, and then also going up 3 stories with a footprint, possibly in the future, maybe building a walkway over US 1 with the library right there, and you've got the tennis courts across the street. So there's a lot of potential future discussions, if you will, for that site. I just think it's a perfect site, and in discussing it with the school board, I think that the future for schools at this point is going to be partnerships. partnerships with municipalities, with the school board, realizing that it's not just the school board's problem, it's all of her problem that we get our kids educated. And I have no problem with it being a public school, but I want it to be and have a private school feel. And I let her know that I wanted it to have a private school feel, 500, 800 kids, open to the children of Homestead first, and be a prep school. Be a first-class prep school. And all she kept saying is, that's very doable, that's so doable, and we love it. So just wanted to let you know that I have been in contact with the school board as well.
Wouldn't, and I know it's kind of, how far do we go in expending our time and our resources?
Sure.
And I guess there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, such as school board buying into
Absolutely.
to your vision and what the vision of the rest of the council members might be. So I guess it's time of the essence here to get this under contract. Is it now or never with respect to the real estate?
Personally, I think I'm not going to say. I'm not going to try to. Yeah, I'm not going to try to light a match under anybody and push anybody, but I really do. I think that in light of the escalating real estate market, I think that we've been offered a very, very wonderful value, and I think that really that it's becoming that time is of the essence. And before I direct Gail to continue further with the contract, I wanted, like I said, to make sure it was shored up. But yeah, there are things that have to be worked out. Absolutely, and the contract will have to come back to council. I mean, everything's going to have to come back to council.
Well, and I would think that if we were going to attempt to proceed to contract, that contract would have a due diligence period sufficient enough for us being the city, to work a deal with the school board that's acceptable to our vision if it's going to be our money acquiring the property.
Right, absolutely. Any type of purchase we're going to have.
And that would be the only contract that I would be able to support, would be one that would allow us to go out and with time to strike that deal with the school board. I mean, we're just not going to lay it out there and let them do what they want to do.
I expressed that very clearly.
Although I'll say it publicly, I firmly believe that if it were not for the new school board we have, we would not have had the groundbreaking at Southgate High School. We would all still be here wringing our hands.
I will tell you, though, I did some research on that, and actually not to disagree with you, but actually that school was set. That was set in stone. That was done before the current election of the current school board. Yes, the election with the current school board has been very good and positive, but that school was going to happen with or without the election of the new school board, Steve. That was a done deal. That was funded. That's been in the plans.
Because they told us about their 5-year plans, they kept cycling
through
the fifth year.
That's been funded for a very, very, very long time, and I met with one of the primary architects who's one of the major planners for Region 6, and that was done a long time ago, and far before the latest school board election. Even though I think that the school board changes have been very, very positive.
And finally, do we have any alternative sites? Anything that we've looked at?
Not at the moment.
I know we haven't looked at...
I'm open to ideas.
We haven't looked at city-owned property for a lot of reasons.
And you know what? I don't think that we have to rule out, I know what site you're thinking about. I don't think we have to necessarily rule out the sports complex area forever. I think that it was just the timing at the particular time it was brought up. I don't think that's a forever goner, for a portion, for a particular portion of that site. I think that should absolutely be discussed again, Steve. I really do. I just think at this particular time, this site seems to be jumping out at us as one to take, and I don't know how many developers would offer us 3 acres of a 17-acre parcel that can be developed commercially for the money that they offered. I think it's a blessing and very, very providential, and I consider ourselves to be very fortunate to be on the receiving side of that offer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Any other comments? Let me ask a couple of questions, Councilwoman Bell. Have there been a need assessment done by the school board that have concluded a need of an additional high school in Homestead?
I don't necessarily know if there's been a needs assessment, but there's been many statements stating the need for another high school in Homestead. And for Anna Reggio-Conde to kind of jump on board, if you will, and get very excited about it. We've got, I don't know how many K through 8s Think about it. We've got Waterstone K through 8, Keysgate K through 8. We've got another 2 K through 8s coming online. There's going to be another K through 8 Oasis. So we've got like 6 K through 8s. Well, after 8 comes 9. I just want to know where all these kids are going to go. So I think the needs assessment is very obvious just with the amount of K through 8s we have in our town. And we only have one high school in the city of Homestead. Remember, South Dade High School is in the county.
Any thought been given to, I know we got 3 EFBD coming in, those are K through 8. Is there any way we can convert one of those EFBD to a high school? Being that the need is more for the high school and K through 8.
Doubt it very seriously. I doubt it very seriously.
Is that an option?
The cost involved, somebody has a BlackBerry up close to the...
What mean?
If there's a cell phone close to it, it'll do it. The cost associated with a high school site as opposed to a K through 8 site is just exorbitant. So I don't see that happening. It's an idea I could bring back to the EFBD board, but the first 2 schools have already been master site planned.
Because I'm looking at need, and as you've stated, we have built so many K through 8s already.
Well, I will tell you,
and we got 3 EFBD coming online, and we could convert one of those to a high school. It may be ideal right now.
But the cost of a high school is just exorbitant. That's why I come to you now to propose this, because most of the cost associated with the high school is already in place. The hundreds of, basically tens and tens of millions of dollars to construct a gym and ball fields and football fields and on, and a pool, and it's already there.
In your discussion with the school board, they have bought into this 3-acre site for high school?
Unofficially.
Unofficially.
School board staff.
My concern would be if
school board staff.
If they're bought into it, $750,000 from them to buy it. I mean, it's just minuscule in terms of dollars. If they bought into the idea that a high school is necessary.
Oh yeah.
In addition to the one at the base.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. In fact, we were putting our heads together today, and so this is unofficial. This is something that would have to be proposed to school board staff. The new school that is going to be coming online at the Air Force Base site is designed for 2,800 kids. That's a huge school. So Ana Regio Conde said that we could possibly take the funding for 800 of those students, which is a lot of money, and divert that funding for those 800 students, and build a school here for 800 students. And so that would be a school for 2,000, and we'd have a school for 800 before that gets started. They seem to be very excited about it. In fact, I did talk to Evelyn Greer quite a while ago, and she seemed to be pretty excited about it. And then I talked to Ana Regio Conde. I've talked to a couple other people, and primarily school board staff, one school board member and school board staff, and seem to be pretty excited about it.
You know, I kind of take the position with the vice mayor that certainly the need is there for a high school, for more schools in Homestead, in particular high school, as you said. But my concern is the location of that school.
Well, it's the will of the council.
If we could look at other alternatives, in addition to the one you're proposing, but it would not be my first choice.
Well, okay, let's just say, take a look at North Canal, take a look at Kingman. I mean, look at all the schools that are going off of that area too. I mean, we could essentially say the same thing out there. So, I mean, we're going to have 2 more schools off North Canal. We've got school on West Palm Drive. Little ways down the road, you have a school right there on Kingman Drive. There's going to be another one on Kingman. So, I mean, you could say the same thing with the other areas as well, Mayor. But it's the will of the council.
Norman, in the Southwest Master Plan, there's a location for school. Is that an option to put this school?
think it's a big enough site for a high school. I think
It's bigger than just 3 acres.
Well, yeah, I think it's like 5 acre.
Where's it at?
The biggest positive I see with doing maybe a little bit more investigation during a due diligence period under a contract is that many of the amenities are in place outside of the footprint of that 3 acres. And to put a school anywhere else, as the Vice Mayor said, would be millions of dollars in additional construction costs that are not there on site. Now, and I'll just say this, hypothetically speaking, there would be some of those amenities if you did it somewhere potentially out on the baseball
There would be
complex
fields.
land.
You'd have fields.
You'd have fields, so you'd have,
I'm open to suggestions if you guys can find another piece of land that abuts two football fields, baseball fields, a gym, parking lot, and basketball courts and a pool.
you know, as Councilwoman Bell said,
But you put
Any
the burden
contract,
on, you put the burden on the city, and my position is the school board that bought into the idea that another high school is necessary. Then they need to buy into the need to provide the funding to make it happen.
That's right.
That's all I'm saying.
That's right. That's right.
we could sell them our contract and enter into a lease agreement for their use of our amenities.
That's right. My idea, and I'm always open to suggestions, my idea is to hold the land and lease it. Dr. Trentham?
Now it's on. Yes, I'm Jim Trantham, 2375 Southeast 7th Place, and I'm on the Education Committee, so we've been over this and we've heard this, and I thank Ms. Bell and Charles LaPrade for offering this idea. There are 3 things that make this attractive. Number 1, I would normally object to this because of the amount of property. You need 50 acres for a high school, you know, not 3 acres. 3 acres is not enough for an elementary school. However, this is a completely different concept. This is what a lot of cities are calling boutique schools. This is a specialized school. It's not just a normal high school. And I think it's an attractive idea for Homestead for a couple of reasons. First of all, it would help to eliminate the overcrowding that is going to come, which Ms. Bell has already mentioned, because of all the K-8s we have online already. So this would help to alleviate that overcrowding, number 1. And especially, as Mr. Losner said, the fact is that because it's a Homestead high school, Homestead City High School, we would be able to have a little different situation on boundaries. The high school would serve the Homestead children first. And then another thing that hasn't been brought to bear on this yet would be the time involved. It's going to be 8 to 10 years before we see that mega school go up by the airport. That is not like South Dade, where it's already funded and ready to roll. South Dade will be finished in the spring of 2008, I think it is, something like that. But it will be ready to go. But that's only going to be 600 more students than it is now. That's not a new school. People think, oh, South Dade High School, a new school, but that's only adding another 600 student stations. This school could be built in 2 or 3 years because it's only the physical building going up 3 stories. And the fact is that because we don't have the 50 acres, Harris Field would make a really good spot for it because, as has been mentioned, you have the fields, you have the field house at the YMCA, and whatever else you want to have for this specialty school. And it could be a prep school. One advantage it would be to Homestead to have a college prep type school. And if you don't want it to be a prep school, it could be a specialty school with a couple of academies. And it would only have to be 800 to 1,000 students to have a couple of really good academies. It's a good idea, I think, for this time. And Homestead would, retain the property. I think it's a good idea.
Thank you, Dr. Trent.
Would you think the school board would have to buy into that concept, though?
I think the school board would have to buy into that concept, but I think you're right about one thing. We have a much more progressive, I'll put it that way, progressive school board today than we had 5 years ago, 3 years ago, even 2 years ago. This is an evolving school board, and I think it's a forward-thinking school board, and they're more amenable to the type of new ideas that are coming out as far as what's in a school and what it has to be. And smaller schools, by the way, are the answer to better education. Smaller classes and smaller schools.
Thank you, Dr. Trent. And by the way, I just read an article in the Herald, and I kept it, talking about the larger schools not having near the success rate as smaller schools. And in smaller schools, you know all the students, you know all the teachers, there's a much bigger accountability factor. And they're exactly as Jim said, they're designer schools, if you will. One of the things that I was thinking about is, as we are trying to appeal to people to businesses to come into the community, businesses, now not people, one of the primary factor of a business coming to the community is the quality of your schools. And that's by the way, that's number one. And we are trying at this point to get businesses in our community. We have a new hospital coming online, a lot of more professional people. And what a draw, because when I said I want the school board on board, but it has to be our way. Open to Homestead kids first. I want it to be a prep school, 500 to 800 kids. It's going to have a primary goal of preparing for college. It's going to be fostering a strong learning environment, very strict school. And she said, we love it. By the way, Anna Regia Condi and I did a workshop together last Friday at the joint elected officials workshop with the school board, and we discussed the cooperative partnerships with cities, municipalities, and the school board. And many projects that she mentioned were very similar to what we're trying to do right now in the city of Homestead. And she mentioned that they're getting ready to build a small all-girls high school, and then they're going to follow with a smaller all-boys high school, smaller footprints, smaller schools with much more accountability. So when I brought this idea to her, she got very excited, and basically she comes to every EFBD board meeting and sits there and she crunches the numbers and basically knows exactly how this could work. And she said, this is so doable. She got very excited about it. And so I don't think it's a hard sell at all to school board, because once you've sold staff, and actually staff is trying to talk me, as I'm sharing it with her, she's still getting so excited about it. So once you sell your school board staff, it's not going to be hard to sell the school board. Councilman Hodge. Councilman Hodge.
Yes, ma'am. I had a little bulb that came on. It's usually dim most of the time, but I was just thinking that in this process and in discussions that we've had with the high school site, and we've kind of arbitrarily contributed the YMCA and the amenities there as part of this equation, exactly. And I do understand that that's all city property, but to my understanding, we do have a contract with the YMCA on the full management of that. And I would first would like to see what their input would be on this idea, because we would be infringing upon their usage and their programming that they have to be able to, make this happen towards the gym and the fields and everything. So, that's just an issue that popped up to make me think, how do they feel about it? Because we really hadn't. We talked about it, but we really hadn't, got their full support saying, oh, we would love that, or in other words, are we just saying this, and then, okay, if we approve it tonight, then we start negotiations and the school come up, and then we tell the YMCA, okay, this is what we're going to do, so accept it? Or do we need to get them to buy in and say, okay, we can work our programming with this, or we can make this part of our programming, or how do, you understand what I'm saying? Because we haven't really, and maybe this happened while I wasn't here, but I don't think we ever really.
I did. Well, Don Clark is gone, but I had extensive conversations in a meeting with Don Clark before he left about this idea, and he loved it and thought it was very, very doable. Now, of course, he's gone, so, and it would have to be Marlene and I would have to go have a meeting with the YMCA. I don't know, Marlene, I mean, when I talked to Don Clark about it, he thought it was fabulous because the YMCA is underutilized in those particular areas during the school hours. Gym is empty during the school hours. Virtually so is the pool. So, you know, most of it's empty during school hours. The aerobics room, the weight rooms, those are busy. Those are hopping all the time. But the specifically underutilized areas during the school hours are specifically the areas that the kids would use. So it seems very, very doable and very workable. Marlene, what do you think?
That's a hard question to answer, Councilwoman, just now without having any further dialogue with the YMCA. I know they have new management coming on board. I do know that they have, you know, regular classes and schedules for both their athletic area, and they have swim classes. In fact, we send some of our seniors over there for swim classes. But I think it would have to be something that would have to be further dialogued with the YMCA.
And you know, this is, I want to help everybody understand, this is very preliminary, what we're doing here tonight. This is stage one, step one, just to open the doors to dialogue, to proceed further. And I need to know whether council wants me to proceed further, whether council wants me to bring a contract back for the acquisition of the property. I need direction from council, and that's why we're here tonight. It's kind of do or die. Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes, thank you. I have a technical question. Maybe I should address this to the city attorney. If we were to purchase the land and leased it to the school board, is that where I think I'm going?
One of the ideas we're throwing around.
All right. Or to a private entity. Because we are listed as owners of the land, even though they would have, I'm trying to think this through, because this is the first time, to my knowledge, that we've talked about this. So, if we were to lease this out, and they had a liability policy, and even though we would be covered under their liability policy, if there ever was a really serious incident or lawsuit, wouldn't the city be brought into that? Yes?
I think probably as the owner of the property we would. I think if you have a lease like this on a long-term basis where they're building a school, you require insurance and us to be covered. Somehow or another we could be involved, but again, we're dealing with the school board, so that, you know, we could just require, we require them to buy sufficient insurance and to defend us and so forth. I think you could probably, if you wanted to move ahead, you probably could protect the city in that, for that issue.
Okay. And my other concern, which I think you've addressed, Ms. Bell, is that I definitely, if we were to pursue this or any other location, I definitely would want this to be open to the children that live within the city limits of Homestead, because I don't know if any of you remember, but years ago we did a little bit of a survey at one of the charter schools, and the majority of the kids that go there were not residents of the city of Homestead, and once you go there, you're grandfathered in, and I just wouldn't want to see it to where they would just automatically be the ones that go to the high school. And I think that's a misconception that a lot of people in this town have, that once we have, if we were to have a charter high school, that they would be automatically just grandfathered in, and that would concern me. As far as the small footprint of a school, the 500 to 800 stations, I like that. I think that's more personable. I think that's the teachers have more of an ability to teach, you know, with a smaller environment. My greatest concern, and again, first of all, is that the price, $750,000?
I'm sorry.
I heard the price, $750,000,
$250 per acre,
$250 per acre?
$750 for the 3 acres,
Okay,
which is less than what's happening for 1 acre right now.
okay. You know, if we were to move forward with the contingency that at that time, then all the studies would be done. I'm trying to visualize, you said that's Tennessee that runs right there by Cherry Village and behind, trying to think of the other name of those. Tennessee?
Behind Harrisfield.
That is Tennessee. Okay, so it's Tennessee, then it wraps around and comes out on North Canal and then jogs over a little bit, correct? It's not through a street.
No, it ends in Maori.
I know, but
Through Street to Maori.
to Maori.
Right.
But isn't there a dirt road? Am I thinking where I'm thinking?
I'm not sure. I know it goes through to Maori.
Yeah, but then for Monterey Point Apartments,
Right.
remember all that? I believe that is a dead end, and it closed there, but it's a dirt road, and people travel that shouldn't be traveling it, right? Especially on the 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers. But let me just make my point, Mike. But that comes out on North Canal, and then that jogs around Lakeshore there, and then hooks up with Tennessee. In other words, it's not a straight shot, is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not.
But I'm trying to picture how we can do that traffic, because I know in the mornings when I go to work, the stop sign there, that 4-way stop on Maori and 6th Avenue is sometimes backed up, almost to US 1. So that's something Julio, is that what you're talking about, weeding around that way?
Well, again, we would have to look at all options available. That's just one of the routes that could be taken. There's Maori going east also as well. So, it's just something that would have to be looked at definitely and studied by consultants to see which would be the best way to route the traffic.
I would just want us to be really smart in this, because I know that Amanda's phone probably rings too off the hook from Keysgate residents who can't get out to go to work in the mornings and can't get out or can't get home in the evenings because the traffic is backed up, past North Canal, towards 8th Street on any given day when the kids get out of school there at Keysgate Charter School. So those are my questions, I think. As far as the YMCA goes, I think that we'd have to, if we entered into a contract, we'd have to get with Parks and Recs and talk about the fields. I know the fields aren't utilized during the day, but I'm sure we'd need to just come back with a recommendation as far as maintenance on the fields and things like that. But thank you, Ms. Bell.
Thank you, Judy.
Ms. Bell?
Amanda?
I see a lot of potential, and I really like the idea of using our own facilities and our own property and tying it all in, using what we have. But I do have some concerns as well, and Mr. Losner addressed the traffic. I was trying to visualize it on 12th Ave. You got Maori and Campbell, and there's nowhere else to go. And Maori is a horrible road. Maori, you're going to cut into Farm Life, and that part of the road is bad as well. You can't get out at that light at Farm Life and Campbell. So you kind of have we really need to look at that, because traffic...
That is why I said most of the flow would be on Campbell onto the road.
On to 12th?
Mm-hmm. Most of the flow would have to come off of Campbell Drive.
Maybe we could get some kind of diagram to let us see, because, it's a major issue, and if you've got a bunch of high school students and they're driving themselves, it could be... If you drive in front of Homestead High School, you know what I'm talking about. But there's definitely a lot of advantages to it. I see potential, but I need to know a little bit more about what's going to happen with the ownership. The city's going to own the property, but what are we going to do? Are we going to lease it to a charter school that's for profit? Are we going to try to work with the school board? I just want a little bit more information.
What I've been talking about is strictly at this point is working with the school board.
So it would be a public school?
Uh-huh. At this point, that's what I'm looking at this point.
That we would be able to control. Because I, as well, want Homestead students.
That was number one. I will tell you, my caveat from the very start, when I threw this idea around about, I think maybe a year and a half ago, when I sat down with Charles and we were discussing this and brought in the Fragas, and then I happen to run into the froggies. But one of my primary thoughts and concerns is control. Just to be honest, control. And I shared this with Anna Rija Kandi. I want, if I'm going to put my neck on the line for this and try to get a school here and step out, we're going to have control. And it is going to have to be our way. It has to be our way. And she had no problem with that. They have absolutely no problem with that. It could all be in writing. And that is, number one, it's open to kids within the Homestead city limits first. If there's an extra 100 seats, that's fine. Extra 150 seats, that's fine. Homestead kids first. Prep school, small school, stringent, uniforms, I mean, on and on and on. And they're fine. They're like, that's not an issue, because they are creating so many of these designer schools right now, and beginning partnerships with other municipalities on ideas. So, and like we said, there is something very similar to this in Pembroke Pines. I haven't put anything in cement as far as charter or public, but I think if the public school system will cooperate with us and fund the whole thing and come in, and whether we lease the land to them and hold the land, or whether we go ahead and sell it outright, the point is we've accomplished the end game of getting a school for Homestead High School students.
Well, that was what I was trying to get at. If we are owning the land, you feel we could keep control of it. But if we're going to lease it or sell it, why doesn't the school board just come in and buy it? If they've offered money from this other school, hey, we've got this great idea, come in here and buy this property we're holding for you. Are they interested in coming and buying the property without us being a middle person, without us having to get into the...
Well, they're not invited to the table to do that. The school board has not been invited to the table to purchase that land. We have. The land has not been offered to the school board, and it will not be offered to the school board. The land's been offered to the city of Homestead. This deal, if the city of Homestead does not purchase this 3 acres, this deal goes away.
And it becomes commercial or...
Absolutely.
Does the school board express interest in purchasing the property?
The school board is expressing interest in working with us in whichever way that we would be happy to work with them.
I'd like more information.
I'm giving you as much as I can, because she can say, this is great, I don't think I'll have a problem selling it, this is wonderful, we love it, this is exactly what we're looking for, but she can't make an absolute commitment to me before she goes back to staff and goes back to the board. So all I can tell you is, with the greatest faith possible, we're going to run the show. But it's within the framework of a public school system. It would be a small public school with a private school flair, with a small private prep school flair.
Well, what I was saying is, I'm interested, I want more information, but I'm not ready to sign a contract tomorrow.
Well, we can't sign a contract tomorrow, because the contract has to come back before this board. What I need to know is, does council want me to proceed? Are we going to expend more resources and bring a contract back to council, yes or no? I have to know that.
She's the chair of the committee.
Yeah. Well, again, as I said earlier, I think there are a lot of unanswered questions and details to be addressed, but we can't begin to address those unless we have it under contract with an inspection period. And if we don't get the right answers to our questions and don't work out the right details as to control,
then you've lost
and so forth, then we terminate the deal and go our separate ways. But, I think I would hate to foreclose the opportunity to try to address those. The only way we're going to do that is by getting it under contract.
Would you like a motion to move forward? Oh, Councilwoman Walden?
Excuse me, I just wanted to ask one question. Something just that Ms. Gardner asked really concerns me. Have the Fragas actually said that if we don't buy it, they will not entertain selling it to the school board?
I can't say that they've absolutely said that, but I'm going to tell you. The deal was on a handshake in a hotel lobby after I spoke, and they said that they will keep their word with us. But it's a 17-acre commercial site, and I can't imagine. Basically, the deal is for the city. Why would they do this with this deal when they could get maybe $1 million per acre when they're going to sell it to us for $250,000? I think I can almost positively say that. Now, I could pick up the phone tomorrow and call the owners of the shopping center site and say, if we say no, are you going to sell it to the school board? And I can almost promise you they'd say no. But that's the point. I don't want them to sell it to the school board. I want us to be in control, in the driver's seat, so it is a specifically City of Homestead school for City of Homestead kids, and a prep school, and small, and the footprint that we want. Because we're talking a Homestead property, Harris Field, a Homestead school. I mean, I think it's going to work really, really well with us at the wheel. We have to be at the wheel.
And it requires our joint use, our joint effort with the school board. Otherwise, the 3 acres is not worth anything for high school.
And I have gotten such a great response from school board staff, overwhelmingly, that is like, I'm 99% sure that I can sell this. This is so great. This is so great. But she can't come out and say, I'm going to promise you that this is a done deal. But we cannot proceed any further. In other words, once you have a contract sitting in front of you and you look at it and you read at it and we have a due diligence period, then that's the next step. So I need a motion whether to proceed or not.
I have one more question.
Okay.
You asked, I mean, this is a good opportunity for us to be able to bring things out and ask questions. What about the hospital site, the old hospital site? You know, at one time, I remember when Eddie Baronis and I were the chair for education, we met with the school board about possibly putting in a school geared towards medically trained students, and something, they have a much smaller scale of that at Homestead Senior High now with the nurses training and things. But I know that's a site that might be, and I don't know how Mr. Losner, Vice Mayor, feels about that with the Northwest redevelopment plan that he's in the midst of doing, but has any thought been put to that?
That is completely within the control of the Baptist Health Systems. I have no control. When we had the meeting with the PR person from Baptist Health Systems who did coordinate the meetings to see what our ideas were, my idea was a college or a school. I mean, that was my number one idea that I presented to them. And I even gave them the idea of a feeder medical nursing, whatever, physical therapy, with a medical bent, if you will. And so that idea has been thrown to Baptist Health Systems, but it's totally up to them. It's totally out of our control. I recommended that, and Judy, I did recommend that to them as well, but I can't predict anything. And I doubt that they're going to do that, quite frankly, because I have a feeling, and I shared this with them, and I wondered if we weren't spinning our wheels by meeting with her, because I have a feeling if Baptist Health Systems has the opportunity to turn it over to Jackson and make it a Jackson, southernmost Jackson, why wouldn't they? Because they pick up such a disproportionate share of indigent care, while Jackson Hospital gets all of the benefits of the tax. So I can just, if I had a crystal ball to look into, I could almost predict what they're going to do. Not that it's going to be done that way, but I think it's a pretty good predictor. But my point is that's totally outside of the scope of what's within our control.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, I think the key to this is, in the final analysis, what kind of response we're going to get from the school board. Because this concept is not in the 5-year capital plan. So we will have to somehow get them to buy into it if we want to see the school built in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? So what I would suggest is that the council find a way to get all these questions answered, allow you to proceed with the understanding that the questions that have been put on the table this evening is responded very, very quickly. Because I really think the superintendent or someone need to give us a hint, some indication they're going to buy into it, because it'll cost quite a bit of dollars to build a school.
Got a pretty good hint.
Yeah. So, and our hands are not tied by having 3 acres that we can't do anything with. And in addition to that, looking at some other alternatives too. I think that was, because back to the baseball side is a very viable option too that we need not to take off the table.
And not to say that there's not a need for 2 small high schools.
I never have taken the baseball side off the table, by the way.
So I don't have any problem.
And I can't to be very blunt with you, I cannot get the school board or school board staff to buy into it until I have a contract in my hand. They're not going to take, if I say to them, contract in my hand right now, when are you going to pony up? What's the timeline?
I'll move the authorization.
In the meantime, they give an opportunity to look at the traffic concerns that have been
Sure. Very valid.
Tonight, and
Very
all these
valid.
other issues that have been put on.
I'll second.
Very valid. It's been moved by Vice Mayor Losner, and it's been seconded by Councilwoman Waldman.
I have a question before.
This is your last question. I'm just kidding.
So basically what we're approving tonight is a contract to talk with the school board, not to purchase the site.
No.
Negotiating a purchase contract.
Right.
So why would we negotiate a purchasing contract unless we talk to the school board first?
Because the school board's not going to talk to me unless I've got a contract in my hand to say, we're getting ready to buy this land. What's the deal?
Isn't that putting the horse before the carriage?
No, you're putting the horse before the carriage.
Well, I don't see how that's possible, because
If I don't have land to deal with, what's to discuss?
why would you? I'm just maybe.
We don't have to close the contract if we don't get the right answers from the school board.
It's going to be within the due
There'll be an
diligence.
inspection period built in. It would allow us to walk away without penalty if the answers aren't forthcoming to the satisfaction of council.
Every time you have a contract, you have a due diligence period. Within that due diligence period, that's when we would do the homework as far as getting the commitments from the school board. Within that due diligence period, we then come back before council, before anything is in cement, if you will, we get the commitments from the school board and we present that to council, and then you can say yea or nay.
I mean, like I said, the concept and the idea is excellent. I mean, I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old that will someday need to go to an excellent high school. No doubt. But my thing would be we're negotiating to buy property, anticipating the public school to buy in and build a school.
Quite frankly, even if the public school didn't buy in, we could appeal to any charter school.
That's exactly my issue.
As long as we've got the leverage of the land, we could do anything we want.
Not necessarily.
We could lease the land to a charter school, and they could come in and build a school as well.
That's my issue.
But I would prefer...
Okay, I'm saying, if I'm supporting tonight to buy land to negotiate with public schools, and that fail, and then I'm going to take the alternative to go with the charter school, who says that I want to take that alternative? But then I'm stuck with that land. So the decision that I need to make tonight would need to be more of a confirmed decision, not this may happen if this don't happen, if this will happen, if this don't happen, then maybe this will happen.
No, no.
Well, that's the answer that I'm getting, because...
Well, let me explain it to you. There has to be a contract to work with. There has to be a due diligence period. Within that due diligence period, I go and say, yes, the school board's on board, or no, the school board's not on board. If I come back to you and say, yes, the school board's on board within the due diligence period, then we close on the contract and it's done. If I come back to you then and say, school board's not on board, then you have the option of saying, then I don't want it. I mean, it's not, I think you're confused by saying yes tonight. You're thinking it's a done deal, and it's not. Step 1, proceed with the contractual. Step 2, you have a due diligence period. Step 3, I go do my homework with the school board. I get commitments from the school board. I bring them back to council. Step 3, council takes a look at that offer, says yay or nay. See, nothing can proceed without council. I'm not understanding this, because nothing can proceed without council support. Nothing. I mean, we can't do a contract without you looking at it. We can't proceed with anything without you looking at it. I mean, my God, we've passed so many things with far less information than this. I'm just amazed here. But the due diligence period is the time period with which you will get that information.
Okay, yes, I am confused, and yes, help me understand.
Somebody else, it's your turn.
Because, and what I'm saying is, if the the school board is so gung-ho without openly committing without a contract, why aren't they here tonight to support? Why aren't they here while we're negotiating with them into negotiating with the purchase together? I mean,
I have no man to negotiate with at this point.
Well, when there's a partnership, when there's a partnership, you work together. I see the city of Homestead acting on its own to go and get the partner. Usually when there's a partnership, you're acting together, and right now there's only one party acting, and that concerns me.
Okay.
Can I?
Okay.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Norman, I think what's happening here is that you need a contract in order to start to open the door, the first door. If the school board comes back and says, no, I don't want to have any part of this negotiation, then we as a council have the right to say, we're out of here, done. But right now, as I understand, Ms. Bell's only speaking to staff. She's not speaking to, it can't go before the school board until we have a contract. Some kind of a contract. We can vote no against that contract. Has to come back to us. We can vote no against that contract at any given time. From the questions that I asked, the Fragas have only offered the price of $750,000 to the city. So the city has the option right now to enter into a joint agreement with the school board if we have a contract to show them that we do have a legitimate right to purchase that land at a set price. I didn't mean to try to.
Thank you. It's fine.
But so now that if we have a contract, then we can say, oh, we don't want to go through with it anymore. We have the right to vote against it, but we can't do anything unless we have a contract.
And you have a due diligence period in the contract to back out with no penalties. So
I mean, we're going to have to check those traffic studies. We're going to have to check everything. And it may be that the school board, I mean, just hypothetically, they may just say, nope, we're opening the school at the base. We don't want any part of it. Done,
And I think that's the little confusing part of
yes,
it. You almost support the motion. But there's a process at the school board that they've followed over the years. And that's the 5-year plan. Every 5 years they come together, they do need assessment, they come up with numbers, and they do their projections, and they say we need this many schools in South Bay based on the projected growth and what have you. Now that has been done.
They have an assessment.
And as a result of that, they have bought into opening so many K through 8 high schools, you name it, middle school, they've done it. So now we're intervening and saying, well, we need an additional high school in Homestead. My concern would be, how did that fit into their 5-year process? This will be an unusual kind of request, and I'm not saying they won't buy into it, but if the need was there, my concern is why was not in the capital in the 5-year plan, or why are we not in negotiation with them right now that said we could justify another 800,000 student station, and Homestead need another high school, and you guys need to jump on board and make it happen. So, and I think that's what Linda's saying she's going to do. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this process works, knowing that they have timetables and a procedure in place to determine the need for schools in different communities. So, but let's see what happens. We've worked magic in Homestead before. Let's see what happens.
They said we would never pass the EFPD, I do believe.
Let's give it a try. Let's give it a shot.
There's been a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. Thank you.
Still you. Still you.
Oh, gosh. Well, the mayor has to announce it. Do you want me to go ahead, Mayor, with the Finance Committee?
Yeah, the Finance.
Okay. First responder upgrading resolution. Mike.
Madam Chair, Council Member, this is, as you are aware, the development services My mic wasn't on, so I started over.
I think that's my...
As you are aware, in development services and customer service, we have an IVR, which is a voice response, interactive voice response, where we could provide services. And we are adding this additional component, which practically allows us to be able to contact our customers when an account is due or an account is delinquent. And also it can be used for if we need to send out something to our customers or to our citizens, like a first responder, by sending them this system will be able to provide them or contact them via email, via fax, and also via voice, recorded voice. We think this is an excellent idea to proceed with, and also consistent with the council direction to be able to have interactive communications with our citizens. And it has really, the uses we have here are listed on the sheet. And if you want more information, I have Mark Cooper-Smith.
Madam Chair, I'll move the recommendation.
It's been moved and seconded.
I'd like to make one comment, please.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
One of the things that I was so impressed with here was that it says that you have the right, I'm still on that contract thing, that this will enable us to poll the public on issues and tally results. I love that. That stood out more than anything to me, because so often we say, I wonder what the public would say. I wonder how they feel. I wonder what they want. So I like that availability that we'll be able to poll the public and tally the results. I think that's very important.
Thank you, Councilwoman Waldman. Any further comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. And the ayes carry. B, for the year of 0506 vehicle purchasing resolution.
Again, this is practically what you approved during the budgeting process, and we're just going with the purchase and when you approve to proceed.
Mike, I had some questions as I was taking a look at this, and I do know that this is part of the, it's already been approved in the budget. But as I look at some of the vehicles, I saw a lot of four-wheel drives, 4x4s, and I just had to ask the question, it's under the police department, and actually this is right here, it's 2006 Ford Expedition 4x4. Why do we need four-wheel drives in Homestead, in the city, in Florida? I mean, they're more expensive, and they're harder on the transmission, and we're flat.
Actually, I will try to answer, and I think Scott can provide additional information. After our experience with Wilma and Katrina, we realized that we really need to provide some of the services we need to provide. Four-wheel drives become very essential. And actually, if you notice also in public works and other departments, we are trying to get additional 4x4 because they prove to be very effective in emergency situations.
I guess only if they're very high up, if you have a flooding situation, but other than that, even in a hurricane situation, I know from experience that four-wheel drives are substantially more expensive than a two-wheel drive. I just need an explanation for that. Help me here.
I understand completely, and it was raised a few years ago. Probably about 5 years ago, we had no four-wheel drive vehicles whatsoever. We had a severe flooding problem down here. We had to actually borrow a whole selection of trucks and personnel from, I believe it was Freshwater Fishing Game. We had no way of getting around whatsoever. We implemented it with our canine vehicles first, going with four-wheel drives. That way we always had a small selection of vehicles that were available. This last Hurricane Katrina, where it flooded severely in different areas, every single one of our Crown Vics and non-four-wheel drive vehicles were parked, totally unusable. We borrowed trucks from different parts of the city. The actual cost on the four-wheel drive addition is actually very little for the four-wheel drive option, and they have held up pretty well, actually. I understand what you're talking about and the wear and tear.
They're harder on the transmission. Right, generally.
In full four-wheel drive operation, but we do not operate them that way. We keep them in two-wheel drive operation until it's actually needed for four-wheel. And code enforcement also with the trucks there. By the time we're finished with this purchase, we have sufficient resources to be able to operate in severe flooding conditions.
Okay. Now, since the mayor put me in charge of budget and finance now, so I really, sorry, I am coming over these.
No problem.
A Chevy Avalanche. Why an Avalanche?
To the state, you know, to the state.
Another 4x4. But, so we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 4x4s. Okay. Is that, I can understand in the utility. So basically we have 7 4x4s within the police department. And I can see, of course, within utilities, customer service, and even Parks and Rec. But an Avalanche, that's kind of a...
It's a mix-up vehicle because it's also used for undercover operations.
It's also what?
Used for undercover operations.
That's what I want to...
Don't tell anybody.
I won't tell. Yeah, I won't tell. Okay, all right.
No problem.
Okay. Actually, that was my only question.
Depends on which color it's going to be. I think it needs to be dark blue like Jim's.
Yeah, you know what happened? Don't black and white. You know what happened? Over the years, the city, we were basically leasing those vehicles, which cost a lot of money. And what we're doing, we're bringing them in slowly so we can own the vehicles and get away from the lease, because the lease was killing the city as far as, going out leasing the vehicle just to do operations like that. We were going to Enterprise, getting them, changing them out every month. So now we're trying to get our own vehicles, we can use them. We're changing them out within the PD. So that's why, we're using those like that.
Thank you very much.
Just add to that note, so we no longer order any of the unmarked kind of vehicles in white colors. We order them all different type of colors, so it becomes less obvious that that's a police car going down the roadway.
I'm safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Does that mean that Avalanche now is the drug dealer's vehicle of choice?
Well, you got to change.
Yeah. 4 or 5 of us do, yeah.
I'll entertain a motion to move the vehicle purchasing resolution. Was that Councilwoman Garner? It's been moved by Councilwoman Garner, second by Councilwoman Waldman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes carry. C, allocate and pay government agreement.
Move the recommendation.
Second. Been moved by Mayor, seconded by Councilwoman Garner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I guess I should say any discussion or questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. D, government performance management training. Mike?
Again, we're trying to bring a group from Virginia. They have national reputation of doing this type of training. Normally, they have an institute in Virginia. You send people to train there. We were planning to send 3 people. The cost for the school would be like $10,000. So we're bringing them in-house to do training, and they could do it up to 40 people, 3 different sessions. It's going to be $37,500. And this is just consistent with our plan to try to put, we are going to put a strategic plan for the entire city. And these are professionals who have reputation, so we're trying to bring them down to the city to do the training.
Thank you. I think this is a great way to maximize our resources rather than sending everybody out for training, bringing them here. So I really concur with that.
Now, what's the end product, Mike? After the training, you're going to put together, I didn't hear that.
This is for to practically do a strategic plan for the city, do performance budgeting and performance measures.
Okay. Move the recommendation.
Been moved by Mayor Warren, seconded by Councilman Hodge. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the ayes carry. Mayor?
Ms. Roman?
Yes, this is just to formally announce that we are going to begin our management review. I have 2 dates here on my calendar that I have open, February 8th or February 15th. It will be one of those 2 dates. You'll be getting an official notice. Whatever date that we do choose, we're going to do it the same way that we did the last 2 years, and that is you'll have a questionnaire, survey form, evaluation form, I guess is what we should call it, that you'll have an opportunity to meet with the manager, the clerk, Patty, city attorney. Did it cover them all? And then we'll have a meeting either on the 8th or the 15th of February, and it'll be an open meeting, and we'll discuss. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Roman. Any other business for the committee of the whole, Ms. Garner?
Mr. Mayor, Eric Stedden has requested that an executive session in the case of Shaquille Bowie or Boo versus City of Homestead, and I'd ask the clerk to schedule that at the convenience of the council.
Thank you. Any business, Ms. Garner?
No business, Mayor, thank you.
Ms. Wallman?
No, sir.
Vice Mayor?
No, thank you.
Councilman Hodge?
No, sir, Mayor.
Councilwoman Bill?
No, thank you.
Mike?
No, thanks, Mayor.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming out.
Contract, I'm not going to do it.